You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by Erin Walker and Heather Dyer. Tune in weekly to get inspired and make good food.
Well, hello, Heather.
Hello, Erin.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to today's episode of Three Kitchens Podcast. I'm here to share another baking recipe because who doesn't love baking all the sweets?
I feel like
Who doesn't love eating all the sweets?
we were just recently talking about all the things that we made and ate over Christmas, and it's not that long ago. Let's just keep it going.
We're going to keep on baking.
Yeah.
We're trying to get all the sweets in. Well,
why not?
it's still winter. We still need to keep up this warm layer that we've got, that we've established.
Such a great excuse for it.
Right? We've established it through Christmas eating. Now we have to continue it in the new
But to
year.
maintain it, I keep just hiking my tall jeans up, my high-waisted jeans up higher and higher. You can see.
And I have the perfect thing that is helping me learn about being a better baker. So was it last year? And have I made anything from this for the podcast yet? I've talked about it a lot with Heather.
Was the skillet bread from that book?
Oh, ding ding.
Yeah.
Okay.
We made that on the campfire a long time
Bread
ago.
from the campfire last year in the fall. But it's a really seasonal ingredient focused book. And so a lot of the things in here, as I flipped through and was like, ooh, I'd like to make this, I realized I couldn't because I had missed the season for harvesting some of the stuff out.
Oh.
But this is one that I can make because when Heather and I were out at Christmas, we found some dried juniper berries while we were at our local German market, Edelweiss. And immediately I was like, oh, there's something with juniper berries in this cookbook. So I picked up the juniper berries and I am going to make juniper berry sugar cabin buns.
What are cabin buns?
They're buns that the author made while she was at her cabin.
Oh, do you get to go to a cabin to make them? I think you should have like a weekend away by yourself in a cabin to make them. Or I could come and like keep you company.
I was going to say, do I have to be menstruating at the same time and locked away in a cabin by myself?
It's not a tent. A red tent.
Okay.
That took a weird turn.
That was odd. Okay, so I've got these juniper berries that I can now crush together with sugar to make these cabin buns. And then my wonderful friend Heather also bought me something called rose sugar for Christmas.
Wild rose.
So I think some of them might be juniper berry and some of them might be rose sugar.
The wild rose is our province's flower.
That's
and
right.
They grow all over the place here, and you can find the wild roses and the rose hips if you're lucky and you get your timing right.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah. So you got this rose sugar, and I was like, I know what I can do with this.
I know how much you like rose because we had talked about it when we were making stuff with rose water last year as well. And we went to the Turkish cafe over here to have breakfast, and we were talking about the rose jam. Oh, that jam they have. Oh, so good.
I kind of forgot about that jam until
I
now.
know. We need to go back.
I gotta go back. Yeah. So this is a delicious looking sugar bun. You make the dough the day before and then assemble it, let it sit, bake it, and num num num.
Do you put the juniper sugar into the dough or like roll it up with it, or where does the juniper go?
Let me read this. Okay, so when you roll out the dough, you're going to sprinkle some of this juniper sugar sort of in the same way you would put your cinnamon sugar into the dough before you roll it up and make it.
Okay.
And then you sprinkle it on afterwards as well. So it is heavy on the juniper sugar. But I'm going to do this with the juniper sugar and this rose sugar because I think both those flavors would be really tasty in this. And I have made a type of cinnamon bun from her recipe, but it had the black currants in it.
Yes, that's right.
And the bun was amazing. Heather and I both do not like black currants.
Yeah.
Although I find myself kind of craving it once in a while
What?
and imagining that flavor. I'm like,
That's weird.
I'm thinking of that strange flavor again. I
Ugh.
catch myself thinking of it. Isn't that weird?
I still
Anyway,
have one bush. You're welcome to take it away. We got rid of one of them, but I still have one. You should dig it up and
maybe I'll
plant it
move it
in
into
the
my
yard.
yard when I have one again.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go after these buns, make some great little sweet buns because I think it's dry January. Everyone's sad because they're not drinking, so have some sugar.
No, but this episode will be the end of January. So the dry spell can be broken with a delightful bun. I'm really interested in this juniper. That's when I saw that juniper.
And you got me some
salt.
juniper salt. That's
I was
right.
like, oh, I got to give this to Erin. And I've been dying to know what it tastes like.
Okay, so I crushed up that juniper salt and I had it with some steam fried broccoli that I made the other night.
Ooh.
And it was tasty
Oh.
because I was like, oh, I think this tastes good, even though it's kind of, I want to say like, it's kind of like a minty, piney combination. Like, I don't know. It kind
It's a
of
little
sits in that,
medicinal type.
yeah, like
thing.
it kind of sits in that weird zone that has like a mouth feel with it.
Okay.
You
okay.
know, I kind of think of like, how tarragon and mint and oregano are all kind of, they've got that mouth feel. When you
Maybe.
chew on it, it kind of is a little bit, I don't know. I liked it. I put it up for review with the family, and the broccoli was eaten with very little complaint, which,
Some, but not much.
yeah, it was more like, oh, you made broccoli? It's like, yes, and you're gonna eat it. Oh, fine. And then they ate it and didn't say like, this broccoli's the worst thing ever. So,
What did you put on the broccoli?
yeah, exactly. I was like, wait, they're gonna taste it and be like, oh, what did you do?
And you're going to be like, eat it because I'm not wasting that juniper salt.
Yeah, but no, both my husband and I were like, oh, this actually tastes really good. It was an interesting flavor combo because I thought, what can go wrong? It's not like everybody loves the broccoli and I'll fuck it up somehow.
I just got a new appliance for Christmas and it has an air fryer.
That's right.
My husband was the one who bought it and I had wanted a brighter color and he was like, eh. I said anything but pink. I like all the colors. And he was like, pick like the most neutral thing he could find. Oh, well, that's okay. Anyway, I didn't have an air fryer before. And so I've been trying out the air fryer with all kinds of things. And broccoli was a big hit, even though my family likes broccoli anyways, more than I do, actually.
Okay.
But broccoli is one of the things that they were all like, ooh, this is so good.
Nice. Well, I'll have to send you some teaspoons of juniper salt to add into your broccoli and see if your family also likes this flavor.
Or maybe I'll just have to buy some next time I order something from that little farm.
Yeah, this interesting piney flavor. I'm going to add into the sweet column now and see what we think of it.
Yeah, it's not what you would think of to put in a sweet bun. So this will be fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about how this is going to taste because it's new and different.
Yeah.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for today's episode. This recipe of cabin buns comes from Nevada Berg's cookbook, Norwegian Baking. We here at Three Kitchens are all about using local food and traditional cooking, which is exactly what this cookbook delivers. There are so many great recipes that use things like dandelion flowers, spruce tips, rhubarb, and other foods that you can forage for and use in your cooking. So if you're looking for a truly unique cookbook and baking experience, check out North Wild Kitchen on Instagram and grab a copy of her cookbook. Now, back to today's episode.
Okay, let's talk about buns.
Oh, yeah. Can we just start this out with how fucking delicious these are? Oh my God. I'm afraid to make these again because of how fast we ate them.
And we've been on this like since Christmas on like a carb overload kind of diet. Lots of sugar, lots of bread. And it's middle of winter and you just want to eat all the carbs, all the pastas, all the dough, like everything.
Yes.
And I was like, I keep saying, I gotta cut out the bread. Like I gotta cut it back a bit, but I couldn't.
I'm sorry.
I had to just keep eating
I'm not
them.
going to support that at all because I'm making you all the carbs. This is a bun that I've made cinnamon buns before. I have never made a bun like this. This
Interesting.
is really interesting. I would say pastry making because it is what I would imagine pastry. I've never done pastry making, but I'm going to call this pastry making.
Put that on your list.
So if you want to make
Pastry.
something flaky and buttery and sweet and syrupy taste, oh wow. These buns, I'm sorry, I left the picture. It's a beautiful picture in the book, and I had it sitting on the counter because this does take 2 days to make. It's a bit of an investment in time because you make your dough the day before and then you make your buns the next day. My family was like walking past this page like, ooh, when are these the buns? Oh, you made them? Oh, can you make them again? Like this cookbook sat out, and just now that I've tasted them, I look at this picture and I'm like, oh, more please. So let's get into the process of making these buns.
Mm-hmm.
So I've written this out with modifications for the weights that I used in this recipe because she did put down her weights and what she used, but I was not getting a solid dough or a solid enough dough, I thought, with these. So I've changed up some of the weights, and I think it's good.
Do you think it's something to do with where, like the difference in where we're located, altitude? I don't know. Like what do you think the difference was about?
So this is written from somebody on a different continent who's going to have different flour than we do. So their all-purpose flour is probably going to absorb water differently than our all-purpose flour.
Okay, I was just curious if you had a hypothesis about that.
Here are some hunches that I have. I'm not 100% sure. So I started this out with 200 grams of milk, 300 grams of water, and I heated this up until it was lukewarm on my stove, and then poured it into the bowl of my stand mixer. And then I added in 65 grams of brown sugar, 7 grams of active dry yeast, and a teaspoon of salt. Oh no, sorry, half a teaspoon of salt. And then mix that around and then start adding in your flour. So she says 600 grams of all-purpose flour. I actually used 700 grams. Okay. So my liquid to dry ratio was not clearly the same as what she had written.
Too wet.
But I was able to mix it and knead it all together until I had a dough that I could handle and roll out.
Right away, I'm hearing a difference, and that is the brown sugar.
Yeah,
is that different? Because isn't it usually like in this sort, when you're just making a dough, you usually put in a white sugar?
Let me go to her other, because I also made her blackberry. Is it not blackberry? What are those terrible berries in your currants?
Oh, currants. Yeah.
What are those terrible berries in your front yard, Heather? She's got a recipe for a black currant sweet buns. Let's see. For other buns, there's usually your butter mixed in there. And for the other buns that I've made from her cookbook, she's got like half a cup of white sugar that's going in there. So it is definitely a different bun.
Carry on.
Interesting thoughts. So here you've got this bun. It does not have any fat in it yet. Take note.
Okay. All right.
So you've got this big hunk of dough. It's a little bit sticky. You are going to want to clear off your kitchen table to roll this baby out. This does not happen on your kitchen counter unless you've got the nice big island in your kitchen like Heather does. Clear your counter off. You're going to need all the spaces. So I cleared off my kitchen table to do this. You're going to roll this dough out on a floured surface until she says 80 by 25 centimeters. So this is like almost a meter long.
Wow. Yeah.
Not very wide. And so when I rolled this out, its longest points were horizontal and it was just a short dough. And then you're going to take a cup of butter, and I didn't have a mandolin, but I had a vegetable peeler. And you take this chilled butter and you're going to slice off thin slices of butter, and you're going to cover the whole surface of your dough in this butter.
Okay.
Then you're going to take that dough once it is totally covered in butter, and you're going to fold it 6 times from the short edge, flop,
Okay.
flop, until you've got a rectangle that is 7 layers of dough tall, and you're going to roll it out again into that big rectangle. Same thing, really long, but not very wide. Fold it over and then pop it into a fridge in a covered container. You are done working your dough.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is different. So isn't that process of putting butter and folding layers and rolling it out, is that called laminating?
I don't know. The word laminating isn't used here,
Okay.
but I kind of feel like that's what you're doing when you're creating layers. Yeah, I would say layering and laminating maybe are interchangeable words. This seems like what I hear of making puff pastry, where you've got your chilled butter in between layers of dough and you're rolling it, chilling it, folding it, rolling it, chilling it, folding it.
But you just did this once. The fold, 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 roll, and then what did you, okay.
And then you fold it back again, and that's it. So there's only one
chill time. Okay.
One chill time. So that's it. So it sits in the fridge overnight I put it into a baking dish that I just greased a little bit in case it got sticky, but there was no issues, and it got quite expanded a good amount. I only covered it with a bit of tin foil. Like I didn't even make it like a really super seal or anything. They just said loosely cover and refrigerate. So I did.
Nice.
So the next day you've got a much puffier kind of funky dough going on. You're going to put it out onto your floured surface. Again, you want a big space to do this in. And you're going to roll it out into a rectangle that is not quite as big as the other one. This one's about 50 by 30 centimeters. Once you've got it rolled out, you're going to sprinkle on your sugar, which I'm going to talk about 2 flavors that I made. And then, so starting on the long side, you're going to roll your dough up and then slice your buns. Because I rolled it out a bit longer, I was able to make 16 buns out of this, where the recipe said only 12.
Oh, wow. Those were big.
Yeah.
Well, you had more flour too.
I used more flour and more dough, so I, rolled it out. It was a bit bigger. And then she's got it that you bake them in a muffin tin. I just put them on a parchment lined baking sheet instead.
Okay. How many did you fit on a sheet?
So I did 8 per sheet. You place them on there, you put a tea towel over them. You're going to let them rise for an hour and a half, and then they're going to go in the oven.
Oh boy.
And bake them. So this is a labor of love.
Yes.
This isn't something you just like whip up.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I want some cabin buns. I'll have some by like 4:00. Like that's not happening. And then they bake for 25 minutes, and then you can dip them again in the sugar after they come out. Let's talk about the sugar that we put in here because funky flavors, and I loved it. So she recommends making this with juniper berries crushed into the sugar. And while you were camping this summer, I said to you, hey, can you forage some juniper berries for me? And you were like, yeah, that's not happening.
They're very prickly. The juniper bushes are like, I saw them. We were up in Jasper, Alberta, which is like not northern Alberta, but north of here.
Yeah.
In the mountains. And junipers are all over the place. They're kind of these little scrubby looking evergreens. Yeah, but they're kind of like weird, scrubby, low to the ground, at least the ones I was seeing. I don't know anything about juniper bushes. But anyway, I was like, ooh, there's the berries. And the couple that I picked off, I smelled like they were juniper berries. Guaranteed. I did not confuse the plant. But those bushes were so prickly that I don't know how you harvest these. Must be a trick and some good gloves.
Yeah, I would assume so. So Heather didn't harvest me any juniper berries, but we found some while we were snooping around over Christmas at the local European store, Edelweiss, by our place.
You snatched those up and put them in your basket. And they were dried.
And they're dried. You just have to crush them up with the sugar and make this, you can make like flavored sugars with it. And it adds this, I was surprised it wasn't stronger kind of flavor and scent to these buns. And it's this like piney
foresty.
Gin.
Oh,
If you're a fan of gin, that's what gin's made from.
Gin is made out of, okay.
So the flavor and the smell of it, if you're a gin drinker like yours truly, you recognize that flavor and smell from it. Oh, it's so good.
It is. So I made some with the juniper berries. I also got some rose sugar from you for Christmas. And I was like, well, this sounds like fun to play with the flavor of rose. And it's, again, not a very strong flavor, a subtle, there's lots of smell involved. It's not so much intense flavor, but the flavor comes from the scent.
It's a mind bend. Somehow what you're smelling makes you think you're tasting. I don't know.
It's the whole olfactory experience. Yes. So I made half the buns with a sugar with the rose petals, and then I made half the buns with the juniper sugar. So which one was your favorite, Heather?
Oh, I have to go with the juniper. Because it's unusual and it's so unexpected that it's just, I couldn't get enough. I wanted to keep eating more and more and more. I think you could have had more in both of them. You could have had more juniper and more rose. I know the rose sugar it's mixed already.
Yeah, like I did cut it a bit because I was like, I don't have
it's small,
half a cup because it's a bit and I wanted to use it on other things. So I did a couple tablespoons of it in about half a cup of sugar.
Okay.
And then I sprinkled that sugar itself on top at the very end just to give some extra.
And I think I don't know, like if you were to buy.
You can buy dry rose.
Yeah, I wonder how much flavor would come from it. I don't know. It'd be fun to find out because I would love a more intense, we love that rose flavor, like so good. And the juniper, I felt like could have been more of that flavor in there too, because it was so good. It was so different.
Yeah. It's like crisp and piney and sweet. And
sounds weird, but tastes delicious. It's one of those things.
I know. I feel like I can't tell you, or you just have to try it to know why it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is quite a delicious recipe. It is a little something special.
It's interesting because it's a rolled bun, which we typically associate with something gooey, buttery, like a cinnamon bun, or even like the one you made before that was sort of jammy.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like a different texture rolled into it, like the buttery, gooey, caramelly cinnamon bun.
Yeah.
And this was different because it didn't have any of that in the middle of it.
It didn't have that like sticky toffee sort of thing going on, although the sugar did melt really nicely and become a little bit sticky on the bottom.
I imagine if you had it right out of the oven, it would be a little bit different.
Yeah, I definitely ate them right out of the oven.
Yum.
I was like, I'm going to have to try this right away.
Of course.
Of course. I can see why you might want to put these in a muffin tin so all that syrupiness kind of sits and absorbs, whereas mine kind of ran out.
Also, they would go up, kind of.
Yeah.
It'd be a cool kind of shape I think you'd get from putting it in a muffin tin.
Yeah, so I might try that next time, but you can definitely just do this on a parchment. I say it's pastry because it's almost more like making, and the texture of it is almost more like a pastry texture. It's got those layers of butter in the dough, which adds to the like soft, creamy, flaky texture of it. And you don't need all like my kids, the first thing they asked was, where's the icing? And I was like, you don't need it, trust me. And they looked at me skeptically, but then as soon as they started eating, it was like game over. They're like, yeah, no, you don't need anything else. This is just delicious as it is. So I sent you some juniper berries in the container. I was like, ooh, these ones are the juniper ones. I'll put some berries in. So hopefully you can crush them up. And
I was just eating them, crunch, crunch, crunch. I still have a few because I was kind of rationing them.
Oh
my husband too was like, can I just eat those? I'm like, not all of them.
You may have
just
one.
Like crunch, crunch. Oh, because
it is a delightful flavor.
Delicious. It's funny how excited we get about.
This is the thing. I'm so glad I have you to get excited with, because when I get excited like this with my husband, he's like,
yeah, it's good.
I really liked eating it.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about it anymore. I'm like, yeah, but let's talk about it more.
Why don't you want to keep talking about it?
Let's dive into our palates. Then I've lost them.
I think you could do all kinds of different stuff with this dough and what kind of flavor
I think you could
like.
make like an almond sugar. I think you could make like a citrus sugar. In North America, we're going to start getting like Meyer lemons and some, you know, different oranges and the lemons. Mixing the zest into the granulated sugar, like that always creates like such a nice, it like moistens the sugar and
sticks and
like, it makes it clumpier. I don't know. It changes the texture of the sugar when you mix in a zest with your hands and do that. And then it just, I don't know, it makes it better. I don't know what else to say.
It just makes it gooder.
It makes it gooder. At least I said better. Come on, give me some credits.
That's just what came to mind as you were talking. It makes it gooder, gooder.
Juniper. And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. Remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and leave us a review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening. This is the diet that will keep you alive when it gets cold outside.